The Catholic Church is about to canonize this 24-year-old mountain climber. He wasn't a priest or a bishop or even a martyr. Instead, he was a student. He was an athlete and even a prankster here and there. And now he's a saint. He loved going on adventures and he loved living life to the full. But it was only at his funeral did his family discover his astonishing secret. This is the story of Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati. Pier Giorgio was born in Turin, Italy in 1901 to an extremely wealthy and influential family. His father founded the powerful newspaper called La Stampa, which is still in print today. Alfredo became an Italian ambassador and senator. His mother, Adelaide, was a famous painter who even had paintings bought by royalty. Needless to say, Pier Giorgio was set up for a life filled with comfort and status and success. But he was different. Pier Giorgio kept frustrating his parents because he would come home and constantly be missing different articles of clothing because he had given it to the poor. There was one time when he even downgraded a first-class ticket that his parents gave him on the train to a third-class ticket so he could get the money from the difference and give it to the poor. For his high school graduation, his parents offered him either a car or a large sum of money, and Pier Giorgio took the large sum of money just so he could give it all to the poor. He just deeply cared about those in need, and there were a lot of them in post-World War I Italy, and he had a deep love for the poor. Pier Giorgio honestly wanted to make his parents happy and proud, but when it came to school, despite working very hard, he still struggled to get good grades. When it came to picking a career, he didn't go into anything influential like law or politics. Instead, he chose mining engineering. A big reason why Pier Giorgio had this love for the poor and he was detached to his fame and his status and wealth was because of his Catholic faith. He did not really grow up in a Catholic household. His father was an agnostic. His mother wasn't really practicing the faith, yet Pier Giorgio was again different from the rest of the family by continuing to fall more and more in love with Jesus Christ. At an early age, he requested to go to communion every single day, which at that time was a rare thing to do, and he needed special permission for that. As a teenager, he would slip out the back of his house and go over to Mass and pray every single day, and he would always carry in his pocket a rosary just to pray it as much as he could. Pier Giorgio would continuously build up his devotion to Christ, even though at home with his family, he didn't have any supporters. So in a lot of ways, Pier Giorgio felt like the odd man out, even in his own family. After World War I, Italy was politically in turmoil, and Pier Giorgio was right in the middle of that as he was getting into his young adult years. On one side, you had the communists and socialists trying to take power. On the other side, you had fascism and Mussolini trying to take control. And Pier Giorgio was there in the middle, trying to maintain Catholic values and Catholic social teaching. And so he was very politically involved. He was involved with different student groups and Catholic movements. And even during a Catholic rally, it was interrupted by a bunch of fascists coming in, and they took down a papal banner. And Pier Giorgio defended himself and tried to hold his ground. And he even got arrested. After they found out that he was the son of a famous senator, they let him go. But Pier Giorgio always had that as a moment of pride, that he stood up for his Catholic faith even when it wasn't easy. But Pier Giorgio also spent countless hours serving the poor. At the age of 17, he joined the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, which is dedicated to helping families and the poor. He just spent as many hours as he possibly could after school and on weekends trying to serve them. He had this list that he just meticulously kept track of all the ways that they could be served, money he could give them, medicine, food, clothing, and all the different ways that he just was obsessed with taking care of the poor. Now, despite all these challenges, Pier Giorgio still lived a very full and joyful life. He loved beauty and the arts and literature, and he also loved the outdoors, and he loved playing sports of all kinds. He had lots of friends, including a close-knit group called the Shady Characters. Now, these shady characters would hang out and have fun and do some pranks and jokes, but they would also serve the poor together, and they would pray together and just have great spiritual conversations. One of Pier Giorgio's favorite activities was taking friends out to the mountains. He loved rock climbing, like you see these pictures here. He would take these people out, and as a way to evangelize them, he would have a good time. You would see the beauty of the Italian Alps, but he would also pray the rosary with them and have spiritual conversations and just lead them closer to God. Pier Giorgio showed to these friends that you could live a full life that stays true to the Christian values, that can serve the poor and that can have sacrifice while still having fun and still just enjoying what the world has to offer. And that was attractive. He made the Catholic life attractive. Now, paradoxically, with all these joys, he was still suffering a lot internally. His beloved sister, his only sibling, had just moved away and gotten married, and his parents' marriage was completely on the rocks, and that tore Pier Giorgio up inside. He suffered so much. He actually fell in love with a woman named Laura, just deeply, madly in love. But he didn't think his parents would approve. and he wanted to focus on trying to keep his parents' marriage alive. So in the end, he decided to sacrifice his love for Laura and just not pursue her in order to be there for his parents. He sacrificed his mining career because he wanted to hang out with the miners and evangelize them, and he decided to actually accept the job in order to pursue La Stampa, the newspaper, and be there for his father. Pier Giorgio was both able to have the joy of being a Christian and serving others while still holding on to this pain and suffering that he felt from his heartbreak, the pain from his family falling apart. He really wanted to love them and did everything he could to try to keep that family together. So despite the real sadness that he felt, his friends still described him as an explosion of joy. He never let the sadness that he was feeling overtake him. He showed that life was still so good and so exciting, and that would go until the very end of his life. Now, before we get to that, I want to thank today's sponsor for this video, We Teach Think. Abortion is a heated topic in today's political climate, and We Teach Think is trying to offer new and alternative ways to look at the topic than the usual talking points you see. So what I love about the We Teach Think app is you see a lot of things, for example, about the development of the fetus and all the different scientific facts. And it also offers easy access to some well-made videos that help look at the topic in a different way, just kind of like this one.
Could we agree that if I remove something from an area that is conducive to its needs, that I've aided in the death of that something? For example, what if I picked a dandelion out of my yard and placed it on my driveway? Could we agree that I aided in the death of that dandelion because I removed it from an area that was conducive to its needs? Or what if I sprayed the dandelion with weed spray, removing its ability to take in nutrition? Would I still have aided in the death of that dandelion? What if I hired a professional lawn service to come and remove the dandelion for me? Would I still have aided in the death of that dandelion? Yes, I just hired a professional to do it for me. So we have agreed that if we remove something from an area that is conducive to its needs, we have aided in the death of that something.
I'm so thankful to We Teach Think and their project Human from Day One for making this video possible. Go ahead in the link in the description to download this free app. In the summer of 1925, just a few weeks before he completed his mining engineering degrees, Pier Giorgio began to feel sick. He was experiencing deep pain in his back, and he didn't know what was going on. And slowly, over the next few days, he was becoming paralyzed. It turns out that he had contracted polio. Now, his grandmother had just passed away a few days prior, and he didn't want to create a fuss or take attention away from her funeral preparations, so he kept his suffering silent. Soon, Pier Giorgio's body and now his mind was failing. His last act was to scribble on a note, noting that he needed to deliver some medicine and some injections to a man in need. And that was his final act. 100 years ago, on July 4th, 1925, Pier Giorgio passed away at the young age of 24. His parents expected the funeral to be a quiet, somber one. But then as word started to spread, there started being more and more people visiting his coffin. All of the hundreds and thousands of poor people that Pier Giorgio had loved were starting to visit him. And now here they were returning the favor and visiting him. And it was then that his parents realized that something was different about their son. Pier Giorgio's family realized that their son was a hidden hero, a hidden saint. Decades later, when Pier Giorgio's body was exhumed, they realized that it was incorrupt, a sign of holiness. On a photo of Pier Giorgio's final climb, he wrote two words, Verso l'alto, meaning to the heights. This is a perfect summary of the way that he lived his life. He was always striving after God. He was always striving after his love for the poor. And he was striving to make society a better place too, despite all the obstacles. His motto has become a source of inspiration for many Catholics around the world to always strive for the heights, to strive after God with all of your might, and to live life to the fullest. Pier Giorgio showed what holiness can look like as an ordinary layperson. Even though his life was very short, he lived it with great intensity and love for God and for his neighbor. And while he was doing that and doing so much and reaching thousands of people in secret, while also doing his duties as a student, he still lived it with great joy and attractiveness and enjoyment of life and beauty, while still holding on to the sadness and the care that he had for his family. Pier Giorgio was a man that at the end of the day loved life and loved everyone he encountered and wanted the absolute best for them. And he shows what a life can look like when you truly live it, aiming for the heights. Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati, pray for us.